that's been the story of the day.
And of course, super important to note, AHQ's single win from week 1 of groups was against EDG in that very long drawn-out game you just talked about, Papa Smithy. Let's see whether or not AHQ can pick up their 3rd win of the group stage. We're into picks and bans. Caitlyn, Rakan, Callista off the table, and that Gragas.
Already an adaptation through the Caitlyn first and foremost. It seems like AHQ weren't quite prepared for the new strategy from the LPL teams.
Point to an analyst that said that Caitlyn would be banned at the League of Legends World Championships 2017, and I'd say you're pointing to a liar. This is the new Chinese strategy. It's worked a treat. Caitlyn is undefeated in World's 2017 group stages.
Yeah, not just that, though, remember that the Gragas is got. Also, Malzahar, weirdly enough, is going to be banned from Chowie. It's an okay ban. We have seen a couple of them. The Gragas, though, opens up the jungle pool by getting rid of one of the 2 very good engage options there as tank junglers.
It is also the Mountain special, so you can understand that. However, maybe there's a new special, given how good his Sejuani was in Game 1. Now, Malzahar is strong against Galio, strong against Ryze. Both of them are meta picks right now, so I think it might be about where we're going.
Well,
so that's kind of the interesting thing to take away.
Ryze in priority. Excuse the pun, double there. No, maybe we'll find out as Lulu seems to be the hover. Janna is also open and available, so Mako has the choice of preference.
What did they
there.
play last game, though? Quick shot that was so very successful. What champion is still available in that pairing at the very least? Ryze is definitely a question that we'll look towards, but that should be explored later in the draft phase for EDG, because first and foremost, there's a Jarvan.
Jarvan Lulu, the duo is great at initiation. EDG are choosing the Lulu side of the coin that at the start of week 2, it felt like Janna was going to be the #1 priority. But if you're going to play that empowered, invading style, the wild growth, the ability to chase, if you look in the Kog'Maw, which is also available as an AD carry, the Lulu can get value. You need to be on the front foot. Week 1 was not on the weak foot, Trevor, but
no.
This week, it's all about the front foot.
Well, when Mountain played against Peanuts Gragas earlier today, it was a much slower early game from both sides, really. This time around, I don't think AHQ is going to get as much time to breathe. I don't think Mountain will have as much freedom to move around the jungle as he had against Peanuts.
These definitive statements are going to kill us in this pick and ban because this team has already shown other games where for 19.5 minutes, Lucian is pushing in mid lane and Clearlove never invaded. So it's probably going to be Clearlove on Jarvan. It's just off 1 game, but seeing what they do here is going to really be 10 minutes of gameplay before we actually know.
Yeah, definitely a possibility they look towards the Ryze here. I'm still expecting an AD carry just quietly, but with all of them still up and available, not a lot of bans, only the Callista and Caitlyn. We'll have to see which direction they go.
Yeah, there's the AD carry pivot, as you mentioned, Rusty. Twitch locked in for iBoy, so got some safety in the back pocket to match Kog'Maw if it does become another 50-minute epic. And now ban phase 2. Put your predicting hats on. Which direction are we going?
The Ryze hover was definitely intentional, but whether they want AHQ to ban it or whether they want to first pick it is kind of a puzzle I don't know the answer to. Ryze as a pick this week has been losing far more often than it's been winning. It's been preyed upon in multiple games. Right now, they're banning Renekton, which is the first warning sign that it could be a top lane Jarvan.
Yeah, definitely could be. Of course, Syndra's a pretty adequate ban. LeBlanc's something that is often removed from Scout in particular, and they haven't got a lot of mid lane champions banned just yet, so they could get a preferential matchup here for either of these teams. Yes, it could still be the top lane Jarvan, but with the Renekton gone, it could have been a Gnar, and that was indicating the Rumble to me, so it's good of AHQ to be aware of that and get rid of the Rumble early.
And gentlemen, Shen is still a question mark, as well as the Cho'Gath. There we go, Shen just banned out, so this really could become the group of Shen players because it has seen significantly higher priority than many of the 3 days prior, and there's the Cho'Gath to follow suit. So Maokai, the only sort of super tank, if I can use that term, still free and available.
So that's just where they'll go for EDG as
It
well.
does seem pretty clean. We know the Nasus counter pick exists to potentially take it down. So blind pick mid lane is a possibility. Syndra and Cassio, when it comes to having some lane oomph, are probably the safest. But when you see an Orianna, you think Maokai is the last pick. When there's a Syndra, there's a lot of options available for EDG.
There certainly is, but with that champion pool in the top lane being shattered, expectations for Ziv to be Maokai still are there. He is just a very good Maokai player. His awareness is incredible. He will have to show this first before EDG get the opportunity to reveal whether the J4 is top or jungle, and that's something that we will be exploring through this last pick of AHQ.
Rise gets locked in there to counter Scout's Syndra in the mid lane. At least play against it would be slightly better terminology there. And we're starting to see these lanes now matching up. Some options for ClearLove to play around mid if he wants to. I want to see what Mouse decides to play in that top lane and how quickly they'll get to that bot lane party, because it was so impactful against Cloud9.
So here there's two different schools of thought. If you want early priority, you go Gnar. In many matchups will have the pushing advantage. Speaking of pushing advantage, they go the most pushing advantage. They lock in the Jace. I thought maybe Maokai to Realm Warp a Maokai into the backline, but they feel like they need to reinforce their early game, actually get a pushing lane. TSM fans are watching this being triggered by the early Jace pick, but Jace has lane priority against the entire champion pool of top laners available, and Maokai's no different.
There's eerie similarities between this draft and TSM's as well. I can see that for certain. But with the expectation of Maokai being locked in, that was the choice AHQ wanted to go towards. They have the aggressive top laner. Mouse is only going to play the tank. This does reveal what the rest of the map's going to be for EDG. The jungler is the Jarvan after all. And the rest of the comp is still well equipped to get through that early game. It's just the top lane question.
And I just wonder if they've reached too far with the Jace, because he doesn't have backup team fighting like Gnar, who is situationally a lane bully, but also a team fighter. It is not someone you can launch with a Realm Warp unless you've already got multiple kills. So the draft kind of feels torn between two different identities, and that's unfortunately how I felt about a lot of Rise drafts in week 2. So I don't necessarily see the huge power of the Rise pick, given the Rise Jace kind of disconnect.
And remember, it's not just the Jace being all in instead of a Gnar. There's an option for a Trundle or something that can also split push. They had top lane choices, and they actively chose the Jace because they want Ziv, the big carry of AHQ as well, to win top lane.
Can he win it in the face of ClearLove and Scout? Will they continue to party around the bottom lane? Maybe Edward Gaming throw the ultimate surprise and prioritize top lane play the entire time. In the early game, it's something that you need to potentially do to get this Maokai through the laning phase.
The moment you see a Jace locked in, that team has sent out an RSVP for a top lane party. Top lane priority is what you need to make Jace work in the current meta. They've picked for it. Let's see if they can also play around it, which is a much more difficult thing to actually do reliably.
Yeah, it really, really is. Edward Gaming do or die. 1 win and 3 losses here in the group. And AHQ fighting for their quarterfinal seed, as well as putting one step closer to guaranteeing it. Do a little flyby of the Rift, as both teams are going to start to get some shenanigans together. A little bit of an ambush here from iBoy. I don't think there's enough damage or CC to make anything other than some poke.
I wonder if that's a scouting thing from iBoy, because it's not common to start Q level 1. You can just stealth into lane later and have attack speed for your opening trades, but Expunge is almost taken, rinse, and repeat. So they were definitely smelling for maybe an overextension from Chowie at level 1.
EDG in the previous game were on the blue side. They went for that heavy 5-man invade, get information, find out what Contracts was doing on the Cloud9 side. This time around, moving in, placing some wards, reading where Mountain's going to go or start, and then making some decision from there.
And this isn't the first time that we've seen a sweeper picked up by Mouse at Worlds either. In the first week he did this, recalls and swaps it out for the warding trinket as well. It's about having complete control or denying the vision, most importantly, of AHQ at level 1. If you don't know where EDG's starting, you put so much effort towards that area if you want to save the camp.
And this is one of those games where you desperately want to have a sweeper to force vertical jungling to not happen, to not allow there to be advantages. Topside, Mountain's entering bot lane. We know EDG's here.
EDG just start to back away. They did just leave, baited by the vision, of course.
It was about confirmation. If Mountain was by himself, which is very unlikely in the 3-man, they would have just gone at him and taken the red buff. Kog'Maw and Janna, sometimes you put priority on lane control, especially as a Kog'Maw this early into the game. Twitch and Lulu have that little bit extra oomph in the 2v2 respectively. So they do leash, they do the right thing, AHQ, everything just subsides.
Right, setting into laning phase. Syndra's obviously going to have some early bullying power on Chowie before he gets some of that wave clear up and running. Down in the bottom lane, Lulu going to help out the Twitch in the early stages. Where do we see the advantage growing from these laning assignments, Papa Smithy?
I mean, on paper, the observers know that Jace is always going to be oppressive against these tank matchups, but Maokai survives probably the best into these Jace matchups. We saw Flame doing very well in the Jace versus Maokai matchup when it was Longzhu playing against Immortals on the day. You can match CS decently. Early levels, of course, are very, very difficult as a ranged versus melee champion, but you can gank for the Maokai, you can itemize into Righteous Glory very happily. It's still going to be the path for AHQ because they want to definitely find their advantages topside.
And that's the thing, when you go back to the TSM game and what went wrong, their jungler wasn't on the top side of the rift, so the Jace got ganked, which means Mountain's job, and respectively should be his job, is to prevent those ganks from being successful, to let him just win the lanes. You don't need to be there as Mountain, you just need to be around there to stop Clear Love from being there, and that has proven true in this case.
Need to know the enemy's not there. The enemy jungler's not around topside. That much information, the lane completely at equilibrium is going to be advantage Jace. So whether it's going to be battle warding, which is what Mountain was doing after his big lead in the previous game he played on Sejuani earlier today, or providing control wards topside, you have different options. You just can't leave Jace on an island without any assistance.
I really want to see how this game continues to play out because both of them being victorious allowed a difference of styles. AHQ a lot more controlled and calculated and almost patient in the win, whereas EDG, well, they went in with a firecracker.
Now, one thing we do have to talk about in this game is lane priority through the middle lane. Chowie picked Ryze into Syndra, which gives Syndra the free push generally earlier on in the game. Through that push control, Clear Love can push forwards. He very rarely has done this in the first week, but he's doing it now, Papa Smithy. And it also means that Scout, I mean, he just pinged on his way to top lane once. There's always going to be a world where Scout goes by himself and roams rogue.
A single tear to my heart, seeing EDG playing through mid lane priority after failing with it so obviously, I would say, in their first week playing around the Lucian. So they are pushing up vision, they are getting information, and seeing the Sejuani at every point allows Mouse to be a little bit more fast and loose with his trades topside that are always going to be at least slight advantage to AHQ.
And that's allowing at least a very small CS advantage for Ziv as another minion wave conga lines its way down. Keep an eye on Ziv. He's not really going to be pushing a Mouse, doing his best to try and shove this in as quick as possible. Not let that wave be frozen or put himself in a riskier position.
I mean, he'll be down in farm, but that's an exceptionally good laning phase thus far from Mouse as the Maokai into the Jace. He's navigated it very well. And now he's in a position where he can get a good recall off, get some extra items. Jace's job becomes a little bit more trying if he gets some armor or health.
Well, I've seen the control wards picked up by EDG as well on their first backs. Good combination. Dark Sphere into Scatter the Weak there from Scouts. And continuing to play out. So even starts here, Ivo in his first back. Manages to pick up the Cull and double attack speed dagger. So kind of committing himself to this extended laning phase in some ways.
And it also, as you say, lets you know that he could have bought more power with his gold. He's saying if AHQ's making proactive plays, they're not going to be bot side. It's Twitch Lulu, it's Janna Cog, it's probably going to be a farm lane. And I like these little adjustments and looking at them and ruminating on them because you're not just going based on a standard build that you read or looking at someone else's build. You're playing to the game. And if you feel like you can get away with Cull to the game, what we played around having less power early, why not go for the investment that will pay off later?
Oh, that's
Whoa!
first blood to Scouts.
That's exactly what happens when a Syndra goes against the tier Ryze and can win lanes so hard.
And remember, Chowie was substituted in for West Door after winning the game, and losing a solo kill at this level is unacceptable.
Counter picking yourself. They didn't have Shen. This time it was the right time for Scout. Finding it in this day when they need to win their games is so big.
All right, a lot of damage going back and forth. They've traded barrier heal for barrier. Technically, AHQ come away one summoner spell to the goods.
They do come out one summoner spell ahead, but they have no idea where EDG is. And that's the scare for them. Maybe they have a slight edge, but they're too afraid of where the opposing team will be. So they respect it. They back away. They won't win that trade out.
We're on the timer for the bottom lane dive from EDG if they continue to stick to the scripts.
So this time he did not have a vision of the enemy jungler, but to his credit, there was no Shen on the other side. He knew his damage output. He did it completely. That's the Scout that people look to, and the reason that on his good games, he can actually solo kill mid lane.
Important thing as well is that Chowie decided to cleanse his soul as he died, use the cleanse when it was already going to kill him in the first place. That means he doesn't have it. That means that Clear Love may want to come back to that lane.
Make another pass by and set up again. Clear Love just farming, hasn't jumped on anybody's head yet. He's about to get that Cataclysm.
Team in general is putting down vision. They had vision of both the enemy Raptors and the enemy Gromp when that fight happened. Sure, it did not spot Sejuani on a camp, but it would, of course, have that information about where she has been in the last couple of minutes when it comes to respawn. So they still are pushing forward vision and helping Scout overextend safely.
I want to keep my eye on how EDG continues to play this game out because, of course, going 0-3 in week 1, this is a team that bounced back in their regional finals to win in a reverse sweep. A lot of discussion around the mentality, the mindset of ClearLove. We've heard that story several times. But now they've got that first blood, a solo kill from Scout. That's a great start to this game and what can be extremely defining, even stealing the red buff. I think that was smited by ClearLove. I can't quite see the timer. Yes, because of course the completely refreshed. So even just these little small victories, Rusty, it's got to be so important for the squad.
And it is that battle of inches for EDG that's working out positively for them. Mountain last game we saw him play was pushing and was being pesky and starting to push his luck, but he was taking things. And now he isn't taking anything from the opponent of EDG. And you're right, that mental resilience is something to be admired from the Edward Gaming roster. Quite simply, they didn't have that a year ago. But ClearLove takes a split off, he comes back one split later, and the one thing that he actually gained was mental resilience.
Big CS advantage being developed from the pressure. The solo kill will only help Scout in this lane when it comes to pushing forward. Doesn't have that same deep vision, but you can see right now that ClearLove is poking forward, wants to keep getting vision down.
All right, Mountain, does he go over the wall? He's not spotted by ClearLove or Scout yet, but plays that one safe.
I don't think they win the 2v2. They don't have the damage yet to actually take these trades, and that's why you have to flash.
There we go, flash over the wall from Chowie. Now Mountain's the target. Unleashed power comes down, not enough to kill. The burn, though, gets it very close, and Mountain and Chowie lose their flashes.
Yeah, one tick away from dying there, Mountain, and it is the 2 flashes that you mentioned, but most importantly, they have control. Still with that CS advantage that was there for the Syndra, well, that grows by potentially an extra 6. There's the risk of him being dove. There's a risk of a teleport from Mouse or a flank. He's currently running down the river for exactly that.
Oh, Cataclysm's available here for ClearLove. Gets the knock-up. Dunk is available, but Scout is not close enough. Won't be able to get in range. Remember, Unleashed Power still unavailable. ClearLove goes down, and it's Ziv that picks up the kill.
And these are the sort of mistakes that I mentioned will probably still keep cropping up. They were unfortunately too over-eager. Scout had already used his ultimate. It wasn't there to guarantee the kill. Eyes on Jace. I don't think that's a big factor. He picks up the kill, but I think they would have gotten it anyway. So that was the step too far. I think pulling back, getting down the deep vision, clearing vision, and allowing Scout to play his 1v1 game was more important than overextending for a dive.
Yeah, frankly, I think ClearLove just lost time of the clock. He didn't realize that Sejuani was going to be there that soon, but the teleport from Ziv gives him a red buff going back towards the top lane against the Maokai. He's well equipped to control that lane.
In the 1v1, EDG is winning in every way. Torrent is below half. They already have a solo kill. Right now, you go for the dive. No eyes on where the enemy jungler was. If we're going to hold Scout accountable for his play against the Shen last week, we have to hold ClearLove responsible for just being too overeager here.
And of course, that red buff plus the armor penetration from the Serrated Dirk gives Ziv that advantage in the top lane. He's already got plus 20 CS, but it feels like we started the day talking about junglers and will continue to do so. Mountain doesn't have that Glacial Prison available to him, so we can't follow up with ClearLove, even though there was the inkling of support. However, the 20 CS advantage for Ziv is mirrored by Scout in the middle lane, plus 25. And even though Iboy started Cull after his first back, he's already got a Hurricane and sitting only 10 CS behind.
And to talk towards the advantages that the solo laners have, there's an important context to provide there, right? You have a Serrated Dirk on Jace. Flat armor penetration's great to have, but is against armor already. When you look at the middle lane, Sorcerer shoots for Scout, which is what the advantage gives, against the tier. No resistances. Syndra's going to do more work than the Jace is in their current stead.
Vision spots out AHQ, so EDG wisely back away from that mid lane. And the game continues to scale up. 12 minutes on the clock. Tower only in the mid lane, being hammered away as Scout is shoved in over and over again.
It's such at such a fine point in the game. Righteous Glory complete for the Maokai. You think, all right, teleport play, no teleport for Ziv. but the turret HP for AHQ in mid we already saw is low. Syndra's been auto-attacking down. Same story for Jace in top side. One misfire from either side. Structures go down. Suddenly the AD carry can safely pick up farm if it's Twitch with a Hurricane in mid lane, and the game changes instantly. So it's kind of an ominous thing to say at 13 minutes or so, but we're close to a breaking point where the first team to step forward kind of has tempo for 5 to 10 minutes, even if the other team is being resilient.
Yeah, certainly true. EDG right now are looking at the Mountain Drake, and the Scuttle Crab has just gone away. For me, looking at this, Syndra coming back, blue buff about to spawn. This is a perfect moment for that play to crescendo, to find that objective at the very least. And the question is, do AHQ want to respond to that objective with fighting? Are they going to trade? What's the response plan? Because EDG feels very peeved out.
If you were to make an educated guess based on watching EDG and seeing their performance over the last 2 weeks, where do you think they go with that, Rusty?
Well, I mean, they're answering for me right now, so my educated guess would be mostly invalid because it's on the screen, quick shot. But I would have suggested bottom lane. Once again, that's always the place that they tend to go through the regular split and even through Worlds.
The dream here for EDG is parking Hurricane Rush. This is the new Twitch build, Hurricane Rush, Twitch in mid lane. Because what happens then is that you put a shield on, Twitch can pop up, look for some harass, backs away, heals up with the Ardent Sensor on hit healing. He has wave clear with the Hurricane, and then Lulu roams, and Twitch pulls back. Where is Twitch? Where is Lulu? Is the headache that the other team has to deal with. So taking the mid lane turret right now, they don't know where that Twitch is. It only now is showing on the minions. They get the turret for free, and now lane assignments are clean for EDG.
Beautiful take there, capitalizing on all the pressure that Scout had accrued. The Mountain Drake, which you talked about so often, there's not a lot of deep vision inside AHQ's southern quadrant though, so EDG going to be a little cautious, but they've got the numbers to back it up.
It is cautious, but they have enough shallow vision to see if AHQ want to respond. It's about how do they react if they see AHQ coming in. Ultimately, I have a feeling that it would be a fight from EDG. They turn around, they would stand and deliver.
Iboy's going in, he's got the ambush down, opening up with that spray and pray. Defensive flashes followed by the aggressive one. Iboy's on the front end, caught up by the stun. Wild goes by some time. Here comes Scout, gets the stun and Scat of the week, jumping into the Cataclysm. Not done yet as Mouse comes to the Bramble Spat. That's a double kill for Iboy.
That's not even with Maokai there. They're just able to get it purely from Iboy, trusting his damage and having the Lulu to back him away. Expunge actually kills Albus during the monsoon, and they want more from this.
Yeah, Ziv comes in, perhaps trying to clear the wave, but as a cannon minion crashes down, there's no chance for a Jace to do anything for this. It's the Mountain Drake secured, mid lane outer turret secured. Now a team fight at bottom. That's a big gold spike.
And it's the dream for a team facing Jace. Whenever Jace has to teleport defensively, when he can't stay in lane and take a turret or make a play by teleporting behind, a defensive Jace teleport lets you know that AHQ are very stressed where the game was. We talked about the first breaking point. Maybe we just saw it.
And how about confidence from Iboy as well? He doesn't just stop here, he flashes in. I'd call that the reckless, but like successful reckless in this case.
Oh, come
because
on, man.
he has the team to back him up. That's the important part that I'm getting at, because he gets the expunge, that's 2 big kills for himself. Mouse, Ziv, they all come in. EDG already too far ahead.
We mentioned this guy just hit 17. I can remember what I was doing on July 12th, 2000 when Iboy was born. A lot of our viewers are of a similar age. To have that trust in yourself in front of the Chinese crowd flashing in. I think Rusty will probably be the best to tell you this, but this has been Iboy almost since debut.
Iboy has said in interviews, he does what his team tells him to do. That is how much of a mechanical unit he is for EDG. If Mako or Clearlove say jump, he will jump before asking how high.
Well, look at the mini-map, because Mountain's coming in from behind. Glacial Prison misses! You cannot miss that shot, Mountain! That's a double kill for Iboy! A capital surprise! Will take it down! Here comes Clearlove, the flag, drag, triple kill! Iboy, you are amazing!
He's like a fountain laser, blowing everyone away on the Twitch. The crowd is going insane. Suddenly, quick shot. This game is EDG.
How can you have the awareness to go forwards and dodge a Sejuani ultimate at the same time? Just as we talk about him, that's the opposite of a caster, because he's a machine.
Listen to the energy in this room. It has erupted. Rusty, it's a 5,000 gold lead, 6,000 in fact, 3 towers, a mountain, a herald as well. EDG are in absolute control.
Yeah, it's a 5-0 Twitch at the end of this. Just watch Iboy, the highlight reel he makes for himself. literally moving while auto-attacking perfectly. Hang on. No, we're not. We're back.
Oh, I love that. Throwing up the flare on the way out.
My favorite thing about that replay was short, but it caught the moment. He had clearly already thought, what if Sejuani was there? He was already tending towards the wall because that was the one place you would not expect him to go. So to have that extra thought in your head, watch here, he expects it. He knows there's a chance. His team is communicating it. Is it he? Is it his team? Let's say it's both. And then at some point, the shield is back up for the Cogmore explosion, and suddenly Mountain is screwed.
And this fight clearly demonstrates why some teams prefer the Lulu over the Janet. It's a debate. Contract cold killer there. But it's a debate that we're seeing raging more and more. Janna over Lulu, Lulu over Janna. But the movement speed increase, the shields, the wild growth, that's what kept iBoy alive in that scenario.
I mean, I come from the region of Juggermore. It was all about speed up the Cogmore, give him some more on hits with the picks, and he will mow people down. This time it's the Twitch, certainly a different combination, but if you only have a mind to go forward, and clearly EDG and iBoy together only have that mind, the rewards are clear.
And I don't want to dwell on it for too long, but AHQ, unfortunately, in that position at all is a big mistake. Ziv doesn't have teleport, he was on the opposite side of the map. These decisions where EDG is going forwards, if AHQ are recognizing that, and it is glaringly obvious, they should either be there or not be there at all.
Teams watch Khan play Jace, and they say, why don't teams play Jace? And more teams are trusting themselves to say, Jace is the best pick here. He beats everyone else 1v1, but you need the macro around the Jace to actually get the same sort of rewards. And if you fall behind, you have to expect that you're probably losing a best of one.
Well, that's what it looks like right now. EDG and AHQ trading towers. In at mid for EDG for the top outer in favor of AHQ. Look at the itemization, by the way. Glacial Prison comes out, threaded between the needles. iBoy does get caught, but it's just simply not enough to help. The Monsoon buys some time, and iBoy continues to go forward. He hasn't flashed just yet. The inhibitor turret is dropped, and before 20 minutes, the inhibitor falls as well.
More of the zoning ultimate from Twitch in this case. Does the damage, forces them to go back to base if he can, and that unlocks the inhibitor more than just the turret. EDG in absolute control right now. That mid lane inhib being free just opens up the Baron.
Well, I'm to announce that iBoy has surpassed Mystic for damage dealt to champions at 20 minutes for the highest in Worlds 2017 right now. Very close to Mystic, but he takes the cake with that 5-0 performance. Superstar in the middle lane. I mean, it's just everything in favor of EDG. Now they need to close out the game.
It's disgusting how far ahead he is with the 5 kills, honestly. He's an entire Zeal item. Throwing an Executioner's Calling to try to trivialize the healing from the Janna especially. He is so far ahead that honestly, AHQ can never fight, and that means that they can't 4-1 because the 4 will get blown away, and the Jace has to group with the team.
I love group stage. This game, and assuming EDG close this out, the group is blown wide open. EDG play SKT for the last game of the day. I mean, there is a realistic possibility of this being a 4-way tie at 3-3.
It's certainly a possibility, and you know what the best part is, Quickshot? It's that Twitch is what beat EDG the last time these two teams faced each other. Everything is coming back around full circle, it feels like, with EDG still on the front foot in this game. Miracles are happening on Summoner's Rift.
And I want to call you on it, because SKT is in that group. We forget that for a moment watching this game. And you know what? It probably won't happen. We probably won't have a 4-way tie. But with how SKT has played this tournament, I can't be sure. And that's really scary, you know? Usually I know what I can be sure of, Trevor.
Well, something else that's very scary, AHQ losing another turret. The gold lead continues to grow, and to Ziv's credit here, for the last few minutes, when EDG have taken a tower, he's at least got one back. That's 2 on the board, both secured in a lane where Ziv finds himself. He's got a gigantic CS advantage over Mouse, but I don't believe he's going to be given the time to play the split push game. The initiation options for EDG are just too powerful.
I think you have a sick point there. Honestly, it just can't happen. He'll do some decent damage in fights, but clear love, Mouse in the front line. They'll be able to shake it off. He won't be able to side lane because we've seen so many times this tournament, you can't side lane with no vision. And speaking of no vision, it's Baron time.
It took them a second, but they're finally confident in the fact that if the Scuttle Crab dies, AHQ have no chance of seeing them here. And what do they do to respond? Because the Rise ult brings in Mountain.
Does indeed, but EDG peeled backwards. Glacial Prison comes down, secured by EDG, but that got a little hairy. Mountain tried his best.
Coming back to your question about whether EDG will be super clean, no, they will not. They were way ahead. The only way this game actually sees Source is a Baron steal, which was available. He was in range for it.
And it's a very good idea to rise ult Mountain in by himself, see how that goes. But ultimately, even if Mountain gets the Baron in this situation, is it worth having a 4v5 against the Twitch? He'll probably just dive you straight away.
I mean, you don't have good options there, Rusty.
No, you don't.
You're picking the best of a bad group. And at 22 minutes, another inhibitor is falling. Supers pouring onto the Nexus turrets. And EDG, 10,000 gold up, 7 kills to 1, 7 towers to 2. Oh, they are just putting on a clinic. And, you know, Papa Smithy, I've heard you more than most screaming for teams to play aggressive, do playmaking, to try shut down this wait for 40-minute team fights. You've got to be loving this style.
I mean, it's excellent. Every day has brought more proactivity in different ways. Today may be the most, just given how much action there was, and we'll see the replay here. Chowie was not interested in going near Baron. Good attempt by Mountain. You can see the Baron HP. He gets in when it's at 400, so he was very, very close. Nice inventive play there from AHQ, but Hidden Hope is the best they could ever really hope for.
And it was an early smite from Clearlove where Syndra secured it. He didn't use his smite Mountain. That was closer than you'd care to admit as well if you're EDG.
Yeah, definitely a little bit, EDG a little bit hyphy, as it were. Right, Glacial Prison again. The Lab is going to spot them out just in time. iBoy sidestepped it. Look at that. iBoy's got himself 2 already. The engage from Mouse as Ziv goes down to Scout. Somehow a solo kill. Not done yet, as EDG have got the triple. Actually, there's Supers, that's going to be game.
They're going to end the game right now. The dream continues for EDG. The miracle run, it's well in their grasp.
The dream is looking like reality, Trevor. They're revving up. It's such a different world when you play 3 games in one day. Not many people can prepare for 3 different opponents, but EDG, they're playing their own game.
Edward Gaming want to make playoffs. They erupt in elation with Wuhan on their backs.
Anything Fnatic can do, EDG can do better is the idea here from them. Strong performance, strong week-to-week growth from Edward Gaming. AHQ showed strength in their first game, but that strength went awry in this one. It was sorely lacking from them.
Unbelievable performance. First, AHQ take down SKT, and now EDG put on 2 of the most dominant victories that we have seen in the entirety of the World Championships.
They've righted the ship. They've taken a new approach to today, a proactive one, which is so good on the eyes to watch. iBoy, one of their best players in their demolitions last week, empowered to take the game. And now we are posed with all these questions about this group, and sadly, the 3 of us won't be front row center to answer them.
Listen to the crowd as EDG step all the way forward. Clearlove takes the center stage, leading the way for iBoy and Scout and the rest of the boys. And what a beautiful performance. I can only say, it's happening!
This is the best.
I'm at a loss for words. I think with the wins they've picked up, there's almost a certainty for tiebreakers. But now the attention shifts to the rest of the group. How do people stop this freight train, Rusty?
Yeah, C9 will be playing AHQ as one other thing that we'll have to look at. But EDG, they've got momentum. However, that momentum's now hitting a very big brick wall in the last game, decided potentially for them, and that is still a concern.
And the best thing is the next game is the 2 teams without momentum on the day. SKT versus C9. After watching EDG play the game like it appears to be meant to be played, one of them has to pick it up and actually pick up their first win of the day.
Somebody has to win. We'll find out who it is and what that does to the tiebreaker scenarios. For more on how EDG took down HQ, let's head to the analyst desk.
It's happening, Quick Shot. The 2 teams that came in at the bottom of the bottom half of the standings of the group duke it out. EDG comes out on top, moving to 2 and 3 with 1 game left to play.
And EDG effectively get their revenge. You know, AHQ took them down. That was kind of the big start to the game of what would be a very terrible week for EDG, but they came back much stronger this time around.
They look so good. They look like the best team in this group right now, and I gotta say, the predictions, as you were mentioning, if we're all agreeing, it means that we are all wrong.
Oh, very much so. But let's take a look at how they did it once again. Some early dominance out of the mid lane from Scout. So again, showcasing why you have to respect his laning power.
And here's the thing. all of this was really built in the draft phase. Yes, Scout gets the 1v1 kill, but it's the fact that it's Syndra Jarvan. At any point, these guys can walk into Mountain's face. Mountain was such a key, pivotal member for AHQ in their last victory over SKT, and just deny him everything. So he's just watching Xiaoyi lose the tower, and Mountain can't dig him out.
And I mean, iBoy really playing so confidently in this game, so aggressively, flashing forward, very well knowing his limits throughout the entire game. I think that he had an outstanding game, and this guy really is an AD carry star on the rise.
And it's just so easy to rotate around that mid lane pressure and then grab that rising star in the bot lane. It just looked too clean and too easy for EDG.
It's starting to make sense, though, right? Based on the way they played in week 1, all of their strengths are still there. And then they very clearly shown up, showing up some of their weaknesses, eliminating those mistakes in the mid lane, not getting caught out once they've built those gold.
Yes, Scout is just holding back to his potential throwing of games. He's just crushing it now, and I haven't seen anything to exploit out of EDG so far. They have just been clean. As we're saying, some of the most dominant victories in Worlds so far, and their last game is up against SKT, which is going to be a banger.
I'll tell you exactly where EDG can still be exploited. It's in their late game 5v5. Yes, we've seen 2 great dominant performances from them, but it hasn't come down to the wire where they needed to team fight out of it. In fact, in that Cloud9 game, when Kog'Maw was multiple items behind, Cloud9 were still kind of turning the fight in their tide, despite being at a massive gold discrepancy. So EDG look great when they're ahead. That's how they play domestically. But when they fall behind, they do not have the same 5v5 coordination as RNG and WE.
And then I think the big question comes, for their last match of the day, who is going to be against SKT. SKT has looked weak in the early game. They have not been proactive. They have been this defensive team. They're trying to react to everything. They're trying to control vision. If EDG can get that lead, can actually get going, I mean, the 3-0 reverse sweep, so to speak, on the day is very much alive.
It's starting to feel like a real possibility. You talk about maybe some mistakes in the late game 5v5s. Well, if you build early gold leads the way EDG is, then you can afford a few mistakes in final fights. Let's take a look at the final one of this game, brought to you by Acer Predator.
And the thing is EDG are just so far ahead that even though AHQ, they make the right decision, they try to find the pick, you're just lining up the line damage that's going to come out of a 5-0 Twitch.
I think Twitch has just been flashing forward this entire game for his spray and pray, which is just ridiculous. Azale was mentioning the confidence out of this guy, and he's just a new kid on the block that suddenly, with the buff from this veteran team, he's just popping off.
Reminder, iBoy played about 20 games, not series, games before he took his first LPL title, looking down at Uzi. His nickname was Baby Uzi. He wins that series. He's like, you can just call me iBoy.
I mean, we saw Prey earlier in the tournament, right, with some aggressive flash forwards, but it's the mark of a good AD carry when they know what their limits are, when they can make those aggressive plays and keep pushing the damage forward.
And I think it looks incredible when it works, and it looks pretty awful when it doesn't, right? And seeing the true masters of these characters really is impressive, and I think that, the LPL carries in the bot lane have always been so good at these sorts of champions. Watching guys like Uzi and now iBoy, and there's really been a lot of excellent carries from the region over the years. It's great to see them perform on this level at home.
Now we're going to have to wait to see EDG play again, but we don't have to wait to talk to them. The LPL champions, EDG, are looking solid so far, so let's head over to Shox to hear from their AD carry.
SKT? Thank you very much, Dash. We are here with iBoy from EDG, who is playing like an absolute monster, and that for a rookie. iBoy, how is it that you're able to play with so much confidence on the world stage?
所以艾博，你今年作为一个新人来到世界舞台上，你是怎么能够这么镇定，打到这么厉害呢？
因为我对环境是不会受到什么影响的，不管是大赛还是大赛也好 ，LPL 也好，都不会受什么影响吧。
I don't get affected by the environment surrounding me, whether it's LPL or if it's Worlds.
Well, it is super impressive so far, but for the team last week was not good with a 0-3. You're doing really well right now. What changed coming into this week that you guys are playing so much better?
你们在上周小组赛当中表现的并不是很好，那你们在这个周末里面做一些什么改动，让你们这一周能够打得如此出色呢？
只要不拿卢锡安都可以。
As long as we don't pick Lucian, I think we're good.
Sense of humor as well. And then finally, not picking Lucian will maybe be important in that last game of the day versus SKT. It is so important, iBoy. Outside of not picking Lucian, how are you guys going to beat SKT?
你们接下来将要对战 SKT， 然后这也是至关重要的一局，你们将会如何去准备？怎么能够应付 SKT 呢？
应付 SKT。看了第一场 AHQ 打 SKT 之后，我们自信心提升了很多，感觉他们状态不是很好，我们最后一场还是挺有机会的，而且中间也有 SKT 的2场，也有SKT 的1场比赛，也可以看一下。
After watching the first game of SKT playing against AHQ, we realized that they're not doing so well today. So we have a huge confidence boost that we might be able to do well. And also, there's going to be another game against SKT against C9 later. We can also watch them and hopefully do well.
All right, cool. Well, we're looking forward to that. Thank you very much, iBoy. Fantastic performance and lovely interview. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be right back with more Worlds action.